Welcome, everybody. This is the program for this week's Rotary meeting, the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and we are very happy that you have joined us. We try every week to bring innovative thinkers to talk to us about innovation, entrepreneurship, education, and all kinds of service, because we think sharing cool ideas is a great way to make the world a better place. I hope that you are not new to our club, but if you are, I'm so glad you joined us, because every week we are hoping to get more and more folks who get together and share ideas. We'll ask you at the very end to add your comments to a discussion that happens right at the bottom of the page in the discuss area. That will require starting a little account or just jumping in with your Facebook or another account and join in, because we love sharing ideas. That's what we're about. So in terms of sharing cool ideas, we have speaking with us today Nate Gildart. And Nate is an educator. He is based in Tokyo and does a lot of work with folks there on several different fronts educationally that he'll describe to us. But he's also a musician. And his work as a musician has allowed him and friends to make a difference in some places where there was a big need. So as we go into it, I hope that you'll find these ideas intriguing. I know that every time I've talked to Nate, it's been intriguing. So all good. Nate, with that, I will hand it over to you, and welcome to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Rushton, and the feeling's mutual. I love our conversations that we get to have once in a while, and thank you for the Silicon Valley Rotary Club for giving me this opportunity to kind of talk about what we're doing, in Tokyo in terms of service work and fundraising and music. But I guess a little bit about myself to begin with. I am a teacher. I'm from Canada. I've been living in Japan for the last 18 years, 15 in Tokyo. I teach social studies and theory and knowledge at Seisen International School. And I'm also a technology coach, which is a really fun aspect of my job, where I get to work with teachers and adults as well as kids, and for teaching and learning and developing lesson ideas and helping students with assignments and things like that. It's a lot of fun, really rewarding. I guess my wife is Japanese. Part of the reason why we're in Japan, we really like it there a lot. And being in Tokyo, let me get to life in Tokyo and the whole music thing. Tokyo obviously is one of the biggest cities on the planet. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot going on. I have been an amateur guitar player. I'm certainly not professional, but I played in duos and played at parties and things like that. But up until about 6 years ago, that was my thing. And then I put together a band, and we took things kind of seriously. Little by little, we're getting more serious. But I guess it was following the earthquake in 2011, where obviously, as Russian said, there are places with needs, and my bandmates and I kind of thought, all right, well, instead of just going up to Tohoku and volunteering and shoveling mud out of people's homes and things like that, let's also do something on the ground in Tokyo, try to raise some funds for some of the organizations that are doing great work in Tohoku, at which these groups are continuing to do great work. Reconstruction is still happening, even though it's 4.5 years later. So if you can indulge me, I'll just tell a little bit about how that began. Probably around April or May. The earthquake was March 11th, 2011, so around April or May, we kind of brought this idea up of getting a bunch of indie bands in Tokyo together and putting on a show to raise money to give to, whether it was the Red Cross or a grassroots organization working in Tohoku. Well, basically that's what we did. I went to a really popular pub in Tokyo called What the Dickens. It's in a place called Ebisu. If you're ever in Tokyo, please stop by. Yes, that's a shameless plug for our favorite place. This venue actually, they do a lot of charity work. When musicians go into What the Dickens, they always donate 10% of their bar sales to whatever the charity is, and it's not just Tohoku. They do a range of different things, so it's a really great place. So when I approached the owner, John Coyle, he said, yeah, fantastic, bring the bands in. So we brought about 8 bands in and called the event Musicians for Earthquake and Tsunami Relief. We raised about 3,000 USD in one night, which was quite remarkable. We didn't expect that. After that, we did 2 more over the course of probably about 10 months. That kind of evolved. I was teaching at the time at the American School in Japan, and a colleague of mine, Wouter Lalaman, who unfortunately is back in Belgium, wonderful guy, he said, Nate, I've got this idea. let's get international school faculty bands together, and we'll call it Teachers for Tohoku. So we ended up doing that 3 times, and of course, international school teachers, they have, they make good salaries, they have a pretty stable lifestyle, and that kind of thing. And of course, they're very generous in giving people. International schools, I'd say worldwide, they do a lot of service work in the countries that they're based in. So it was really a no-brainer to get these international school bands in, and so we did 3 of those, and then somebody from an organization called TEL approached me and said, well, you're doing this stuff for Tohoku, would you be interested in doing it for TEL? And I said, sure, why not? But let me tell you a little bit about TEL. TEL is a suicide prevention hotline, free counseling services for people in Japan, who speak English. It is a nonprofit. It's been around for about 45 years. When it first started, it was mainly aimed at expats who live in Japan and didn't really have a place to go to deal with culture shock and anxiety, depression, these kinds of things that human beings have been dealing with, since the beginning of time. So a member of the board had approached me and said, we're trying to reach out to different demographics, and we haven't really done music events. And of course, I'd already been volunteering with TEL before through the international school community, and when I was asked to do it, of course, I was on board. I said, yeah, sure, let's put something together. So I think it was the end of 2012 that we had our first show. We invited a couple of bands that are really, even today, still moving and shaking in the indie scene, the Watanabes, and another band called Johnson's Motor Car. If you say those names in the indie scene in Tokyo, at least with the Japanese foreigner indie scene, everybody knows who they are. Very generous giving people as well. So my band and those 2 bands, we put a show together, and that was show number 1. And on September 26th this year, we're going to do show number 12, and November 13 and December volume 14. So when we put these shows together, essentially I'll recruit bands from around Tokyo, and we'll have anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 bands play. And of course, in between, we'll have somebody from TEL get on stage, and they'll talk about TEL and kind of explain to the audience what TEL is all about, the services that they provide. And a little bit of statistical information and things like that. Whatever initiatives or projects are going on at the time, they'll kind of let the audience know. And what surprises me is that a lot of people don't know TEL is there. TEL does a lot in terms of promotion and advertising and things like that, but people hang in different circles, and people read different magazines and that kind of thing, and sometimes a small advertisement in not even small, but a decent sized advertisement in a magazine goes unnoticed. So that's the whole reach out to a different demographic kind of thing. So with the indie scene, you've got, it's music. We have bands that go from roughly, I don't know, the age of 20 to people the age of 65, 70 years old. Some nights we focus on acoustic music, another night it might be jazz. That's one way that this, Band Night for TEL, that's what the series is called. I should have said that before. Band Night for TEL, it brings different artists in, but we bring different genres in. And one way that it's evolved over the last 2.5 years or 3 years or so is that we try to go with the initiatives that TEL is doing and create a theme. So, for instance, in February, for International Women's Day, sorry, it would have been March, we had, Ladies Rock for TEL. So it's not just Band Night for TEL, it's Ladies Rock for TEL. And of course we talk about women's issues. In May, where it was getting close to, Pride Week, we had 5 different venues and up to 30 bands. I think this year we had 28 bands and 5 venues at the same time playing. And that was actually for our anti-bullying campaign. We tried to connect it with Pride Week, but we just couldn't do that. But again, next year, Pride Week will be one of our themes that we focus on and get some involvement from the LGBTQ community. This one coming up in September, September 10th is World Suicide Prevention Day, so that'll be more about creating awareness of suicide and signs of depression and anxiety, and of course for a lot of people living in Japan, if you're not Japanese, culture shock, which is a good segue into a statistic that a lot of people don't know. the lifeline, it's an anonymous lifeline. 65% of the people that call are actually English-speaking Japanese people. So it's English-speaking Japanese nationals. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. So you're surprised they're Russian.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It is. And a lot of these people, you think, well, why would Japanese people be calling and, that kind of thing? Well, Japan is a more globalized country than it was, say, 45 years ago. And you've got people that are living abroad. Some of them might grow up abroad or spend a significant part of their childhood or the youth. And when they come back to Japan, reintegration isn't really all that easy. I mean, it's not easy for a North American who's been away for 15 or 20 years, let alone somebody in Japan where it's a homogeneous society and, social expectations are pretty much expected regardless of where you've been. You're Japanese, well, why don't you, kind of thing. And it's a cultural thing, and we're not going to pass judgment on them, on Japan or the culture, which is wonderful culture. But sometimes that reintegration is difficult. So in Japanese, in English, we don't really have the word returnee. In Japanese, they say kikoku shijo. And basically, these people that come back, they're returned to Japan, and reintegration's not easy. And then you have, of course, bicultural kids. You might have bicultural couples. Like my wife is Japanese. For her, let's say, we lived abroad, she came back, or let's say she was frustrated with me and, wanted to call the lifeline for a little bit of, assistance on, oh, well, my husband does this, and I know he's Canadian, but, so, it's just a place to call where people are there to listen.
Yeah.
So, again, they have, like, a lot of different programs and initiatives going on, so we try now to connect the shows in with that, and we try to educate our audience on what's going on. I myself, I'm a survivor of suicide, and it didn't even dawn on me that even I could call TEL just to help me kind of collect my thoughts and deal with that when the time arose. But yeah, they do a lot of wonderful things. We've had up to 50 bands play over the course of a few years. So when you think of anywhere from 4 to 8 bands playing on a night, we've had some groups, not just bands too. We have solo artists that play in duos. They played multiple times. And this is just for TEL. I mean, that doesn't even go on with the Tohoku. I have a separate Tohoku project with a friend from the Tokyo Canadian Club. We threw together a show for Nepal. We had that big event in May, again, 5 venues, 20-odd bands. And we had the equipment at one venue, so we asked the venue, can we do a show for Nepal? And, the manager, Paul, this was a place called the Hobgoblin. Another plug for the Hobgoblin, another great place. And, the manager, Paul, he said, yeah, sure, go for it. We borrowed equipment from What the Tickens pub, so, their competitor loaned us the equipment to have this show, which was great, which is another sign of the great stuff that's going on in the Tokyo indie music scene. Anyway, we put on a show, and literally in about 12 hours, I threw a message out around 10 o'clock at night, got a couple people involved. Next day, got all these responses. Yep, let's do it. And we had another show and raised over $1,000 for Nepal. And I guess the reason why I'm throwing that anecdote in there is that there are people that really want to give. Some people put things together. Bands like Jimmy Binks and the Shakehorns, the Watanabes, Mana Hardcore. Mana's got a thing coming up in August for the United Nations that she's playing. I don't want to forget anybody, but there are a lot of bands that they're doing their own thing as well. Jimmy Binks has a school in Uganda that they were supporting, plus other organizations. They're going to be playing in the TEL show for December. So I guess the events that I'm putting on, and doing things with TEL and doing things for Tohoku and whatnot, it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what really is going on. A lot of the indie bands are just they tack on service work to their events, and it's not shameless self-promotion. They carefully select who they're going to work with and who they're going to raise money for, and of course they try to put on a good show, which they always do, and I don't know, make the world a better place, I guess you'd say.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Matter of fact, let's use that as a way of kind of moving into a larger conversation. I want to bring in our member, our Rotary Club member, who's taking part in this one as well, Yvonne Kwan, who is an educator in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'll let her introduce herself real quick, and then we'll start jumping in with some different questions because there's so many different things you've talked about that I'm ready to explore. So Yvonne, actually, if you'd kind of jump in and just say who you are, that'd be great.
Yeah, my name is Yvonne. As Russian said, I'm a teacher in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm a writing teacher as well as a music teacher.
Cool. Now, so we've got this group, the three of us are all interested in music and education and service. And so we're in that space. It's that chance for us to really kind of stop and say, okay, how do we get the different interests we may have into a place where they can be helpful to others? When we think about what Rotary is really all about trying to get people together and to share their kind of passion for doing good and making a difference. And one of the things that you said that really struck me was different people hang in different circles, right?
That's right.
And that whole thing of like, okay, well, how do you connect with people who are interested in making these different things happen? And it seems that one of the things that you guys have done in the indie rock community, in indie band community in Tokyo, is say, okay, this is. It is more than just this one thing that might define us. We are people who can make things happen for others, and I'm curious, like how those two things together have kind of played out in your work. You mentioned, for example, that there are faculty bands at some of the different schools and all. How have people kind of begun talking about those kinds of things, and does that even filter down to discussions you have with students?
Well, like I said, international schools. I mean, there's a lot of service work going on at every school. A lot of the clubs that schools have, they are service oriented. Let me give you an example, I guess, with my school, Saisen. We've got sister schools in Manila, in Vietnam. Geez, where else? When the kids are working with their clubs, quite often they'll try to create some kind of service element, whether it's fundraising, whether it's doing something for children, at the schools that we teach at, or sorry, that we're aligned with. We have a program called Tassel that the students, and this is what I love, it's very student driven, and what the students do is teach English to children at our school in Vietnam. So of course we send money to our school in Vietnam, but we've got our high school students, we're a one-to-one school, so every student has from grade 7 on a MacBook. And so you see them in the cafeteria, they've got their headphones on, and they're actually interacting with these children in Vietnam, teaching them to speak English. So that is, I mean, the school, will fund that, but really what the kids are doing is they're giving their time. And of course they're giving their knowledge. I mean, they're at an international baccalaureate school, and they have a rigorous education, they're very bright kids, and I just love to see that. I'm a soccer coach, and when my students say, coach, I'm going to be late for practice, I have tassel, I don't say, okay, hurry up. I say, that's awesome that you're in tassel. Good stuff. We have a service day that we do each day just to kind of highlight our patron saint, Saint Raphaela, where the kids go off. Some stay on campus, some go off campus, but we actually use Google+. We have a Saint Raphaela Day community. It's a closed community, just for privacy issues, but we have kids act as microjournalists, and we'll have some kids, they're cleaning up at a river, they might be cleaning a park, they might be at Refugees International Japan doing some work with them. Second Harvest is a food bank in Tokyo, we have kids there, and so kids are acting as microjournalists and posting on our Google Plus page, this is what we're doing down at the river, this is what we're doing, it's really neat. And the things, the kids are getting hands-on experience with helping other people. Again, like we have a social justice committee, so they're always raising money for whatever cause they deem fit. So I guess that maybe at least international schools. I mean, it's not just Seisen, it's every international school. They all do this, and you have clubs that are connected to service work. A lot of schools have the Global Issues Network. When I was at the American school, we raised money for 3 years, built a school in Cambodia, went to Siem Reap for the dedication, and the commitment is to raise money, $2,000 a year to, keep the school going. So for the kids, I mean, that's hands-on stuff. We're raising money for something tangible. You name it, the schools, they're all doing something. It's great. And again, this is, it's happening. It's on the ground. And in most curriculums too, they have an element of service work, built into them, or built into the curriculum. But we try to make it real by having the kids do this hands-on work. When you see a kid being followed by a beggar in a less economically developed country, I mean, that's a really powerful experience for an adult, let alone a teenager.
Mhm.
I don't know if that answered your question, but
Oh, well, no, no, no. I mean, in talking about ways that we can get kids to begin thinking more and more about service as an integral component of a good life, right? Obviously, making good things happen in schools is going to be critical for that.
mhm.
You talked about that working its way into the curriculum, and another thing you mentioned along the way is that you are a theory of knowledge teacher, and I think
Yes, yes.
people outside the IB community might be like, "What? What was that?" So if you want to explain a little bit about theory of knowledge, its
Okay.
role in the IB curriculum, and how service may be a part of that, that would be awesome.
Okay, great. Uh, uh, just to let you know, I'm no expert on theory of knowledge. I've only taught it for a couple years, and I think, according to a colleague of mine, when you think you know theory of knowledge and you're an expert, it's probably the time to step out of it. It's people compare it to epistemology, like understanding knowledge, but beyond that, it's more of a trying to understand how we create knowledge and how we use knowledge. So, um, within the theory of knowledge framework, you've got areas of knowing which people tend to compare to school subjects. For example, natural sciences, mathematics, that kind of thing. How do we know as a mathematician? How do we know as a scientist? And then we have ways of knowing, which would be, faith. It would be, because faith does give us knowledge. We believe this to be true. I think this is the truth, and whatever faith I believe in guides me that way. Things like emotion, things like reason. Emotions help us. Well, I shouldn't use the word help, but they lead us to making decisions on what is true and what is not, as well as reason and logic and things like that. So, for example, we might use emotion or reason for the trolley car, theory. So, for example, there's a train racing down the tracks towards four people. If I push this person off a bridge, it'll he or she'll land in front of the train. The train will derail, and I'll save four people's lives. The trolley car theory. So what is the right thing to do? If you physically push somebody in front of that train to derail it, you'll save four people, but you're killing one person. So it's these kinds of questions that is this right or is this wrong? The ship lost at sea. Do we cannibalize, somebody so that we can survive? Well, we might be picked up in 2 or 3 days. We don't know. So we challenge students to think like this, and we also look at science and things like that. Scientific method, does it help us really know? Look at so many. We've used the scientific method, but it didn't work. We realized, oh wait, that was wrong. But we used the scientific method. It must be right. You can tell I'm kind of excited. It's a really incredible course to teach. So students must do an essay and a presentation to graduate from an IB school in theory of knowledge. Now you mentioned service. There is a program called CAS, Creativity, Action, Service. So the students have to create their own CAS project. It could be activity. A lot of the students choose service. So they might come up with a service project. And this is the crux of CAS that I really like. I think it's fantastic. With the guidance of a CAS coordinator at the school, they come up with a service project where they have to work collaboratively with somebody else. And maybe you can work independently. I can't remember, to be honest with you. Like I told you, I'm no expert on this, but you can work with somebody else. You do have to work in a leadership role, but you do have to collaborate as well. And you have to set up your plan. You have to troubleshoot before. Okay, what are the roadblocks I'm gonna encounter, and follow through with it. And of course, you have to do a report on it. So. CAS and TOK are unique elements to the IB curriculum. I know the Ontario curriculum has a volunteering element where you have to do 40 hours of volunteer work, but the pitfall of that is it's 40 hours of doing volunteer work and you check the box, whereas CAS, the students come up with something that's intrinsically motivating. And I think that's the crux. How do we get kids involved in doing service work and realize this is a great way to live your life, is to have them do something on their own. What is it that your passion is? For me, I used to play. I played soccer was my main thing actually before music when I was in university and growing up and all that. My own soccer team after the earthquake in Sumatra in 2004, I think it was.
Right.
We put on a series of futsal tournaments just to raise money. We'd invite 12 teams in, charge them $100 a piece, have a tournament. Sorry, no trophies, but we know you don't care about that. So it's things like that. I'm talking as an adult, but kids can do this too. What is it?
Yeah.
What is it that you want to do? What do you care about? It's like your project with Next Vista. where students can go out and they can do a video and do interviews and create a promotional thing for a local charity or service organization, and hopefully get some money donated to them. I mean, kids they're great. They're great. They're very capable, and they've got the technology to do it, right?
They do. They do. This is really a time when all kinds of good things can happen. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing people step up in leadership roles. I mean, typically what we think of when we think of leadership is something different. It's like, okay, you have this position in the community. You run a company. You are an elected official, whatever it may be. But the truth is that all kinds of people are kind of quietly, making great things happen. Matter of fact, right. Yvonne, I'm going to put you on the spot with this one. Yvonne saw a need in her school with regard to, or a school she'd been to, with regard to music, and so she stepped up to make a music program happen there. And that's the kind of leadership that I think we can help make happen with a lot of young people. Yvonne, matter of fact, I want to let you kind of jump in. I've been kind of hogging the question, but go ahead, and we'll kind of keep on that thread.
Yeah, jumping back to your music and the band and the shows that you put on, you said that you have like 40 or 50 bands coming out per night.
No, not per night.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering how you find the artists, how you find the bands. Do you just kind of send out a mass message, or do you post it up on a forum somewhere?
Right.
How do they know if they want to participate? Like, how do they get involved with you?
Yeah. Several different ways. Let me just clarify. On any given night, we'll have from say 4 to 8 bands play. We do have one night a year. We did our second one this year, so it's an annual thing where we have 5 different venues and up to 30 bands play. That takes a lot of planning and prep, but obviously you start these things months in advance. In terms of finding the bands, I've been kind of in the indie scene now for about 6 years, so sometimes you're invited to a show. If you meet somebody that you haven't seen play or played with or gigged with before, then I just give them a card and say, hey, I'm Nate, find me. With Facebook. Facebook's a big one, because if you see a band play or you hear the reputation, you can just drop them a message on their page. Earlier on, it was more by word of mouth. It was more by sending an email, hey, do you know any bands, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that was 6 years ago. That was putting shows together for service work from about 2011, 4 years ago. Like Facebook has become a lot more prominent. We don't really post in, Craigslist anymore. Facebook is pretty much it. And again, by word of mouth. And I'm a talker. I like meeting people. I always have, band meishi, band business cards with me and flyers and things like that. When I see a band play, for the most part, a lot of people will know somebody who knows someone. If I see something online, as an example, there's a band called Kokanee, and I saw a little maple leaf in their logo. I've never seen the band. I've never heard of them, but they're playing a gig with a couple of people that I know. So I just dropped them a private message on their Facebook page, and I said, hey, listen, you're called Kokanee. That's the name of a beer in British Columbia. You've got little maple leaves. I'm kind of curious. Are you a Canadian band? And they said, yeah, we're a group of Canadians and blah, blah, blah. So with the Tokyo Canadian Club, we put on events called Canada Rocks Tokyo. We've only had one, but we're going to make it a series. And we're doing another one in October. And I said, hey, what style of music, you guys want to play? And, for the service work, I mean, it's the same thing. So a lot of word of mouth. I have a friend, Mana Hardcore is her stage name. She likes to tack on, when she can, service work on her shows. So she'll just say, hey, Nate, can you make this a show for Tel or for Techno Kids Japan, which is what we're doing in Tohoku. It's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. That's kind of how it rolls. I mean, it's a pretty giving and open community. It's that easy, really.
Cool. Yvonne, any follow-up to that?
Is there a place we can listen to your music, your bands?
As we're just about to release our EP, we don't really have a lot online. I've taken things down. We had a couple new members join and whatnot, but we're called the Complaints Department. So if you put if you Google the Complaints Department Tokyo, you'll find us. But we are www.complaintsmusic.com, and then we've got links to our YouTube and Reverb Nation. We have songs up, but we'll be putting the full album on Reverb Nation and probably Facebook as well in the next couple of weeks. We're just about to press the CD. The band has finally decided on the album cover and the back side of the jacket. But it only takes 10 days to press these things, but September 5th, we're doing our EP release party with a good friend of ours, Grant Rolls. He's releasing an EP. He's already released it, but hasn't had a party, so we're doing a dual release party. We are the complaints department on Facebook, so I don't know, people could find us there and see kind of what's going on. We've got some hip-hop friends from Uganda. They're going to close the show for us. They're a lot of fun. Musa, who a guy I played soccer with, we both ditched the team to get serious about music, but he wants to build a school in Uganda. We've had, it's in the conceptual stage right now, but we're kind of talking about it. The people that are opening for us is a new duo called 2 AM. The gentleman that put it together is a young British guy. He's about 26 or something like that, maybe 28 from England, and he's got on Facebook, I guess, a photography page called Offbeat Photography. He photographs a lot of the bands, but he is always involved with the service work. He's played for Tel a couple of times. He's played with our Techno Kids Japan for Tohoku project. So it was a no-brainer to have him and Musa kind of join us. We'd love to have everybody, but we can't have everybody at a release party. But that's September 5th. It's going to be at What the Dickens Pub. It's going to be live streamed as well. So we'll kick off around 7:30 or 8 o'clock Japan time, one time zone in Japan. So anyway, you can find us there for that show. Our music will be online soon. That's it. We do have one, actually, if I can plug this, we do have one song called Te o Tsunagi Nagara. It was written after the earthquake. It's written in English and Japanese.
Connecting hands, is that what that is? Or?
Pardon me? Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Russian speaks Japanese. So, yeah, hand in hand, Te o Tsunagi Nagara means to hold hands or connect your hands together. We've got more of a metaphoric meaning behind it, which is why the English title is called Walking Hand in Hand. Anyway, we put that on iTunes a few years ago to raise money, for Tohoku. So once we get the EP done, we're going to use that song as well as a fundraiser, and proceeds to that or from that will go to Tohoku. I think it's still on iTunes. Actually, you could probably download the old version of it. We have a new version we recorded of it with some changes to it. So we hope people like it. But
cool. Wow, man, this is just wonderful stuff you got going on. And one thing I want you to do, two things. First, get the flyer for your upcoming gig, and we'll show that before we stop the recording. And then also pick any song, and let's get it as a link that we can put under the recording in this week's program, so that people are like, oh, I want to hear a song by the complaints department.
Okay, great.
Just pick any song that you think a group of Rotarians might like, and let's go with that.
Great.
Nate, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to present and telling us all about the wonderfully cool projects you got going. Yvonne, thanks for joining us as well. We love having our members take part in these kinds of discussions and explorations of different ways that service can be a part of who we are as a group, rather than just kind of one perspective on what we might do on any given day, right? If you are joining us today, we ask you to do two things that will help us in some fashion. One is, please let us know you attended. There is an I attended survey that happens just below the links that follow this program, and let us know you were here. You'll get an email that says thanks, right? So that's as far as it goes. If you're a Rotarian, having done that and inputting your email means that you're going to get an email that allows you to pass that along to your secretary for a makeup for a missed meeting with your club, if that is of interest. Second thing we ask people to do is to leave a comment, and this is what I was talking about at the front end of the recording, in the Discuss, DISQUS program that happens just below us. Get a thought in there. Get a comment in. You can reply to others people's thoughts as well. We want the kinds of conversations that come out of this to enhance the ideas that are shared in our programs in such a way that they make new and all the better things happen as people just build and build and build on each other's cool ideas and efforts to make a difference. So with that, Nate, why don't you finish us off, and let's get that flyer up.
Okay, well, I tell you what, I'll do. I'd like to end just by giving a shout out to my bandmates. A couple of former bandmates, Daiki and Devin, but also my current bandmates, Brett and Genya and Hideki. This kind of thing doesn't happen if you don't have support with your band. We don't play in all the shows that we do. I mean, I might arrange something and then have other bands play, but a lot of the time that we do play, and U2 has gone through that. Bono's doing too much, and blah blah blah. I mean, this is small potatoes, obviously, compared to that, but it's big potatoes in terms of helping other people. And my wife, especially Yuka, she's behind me with all this stuff. So quite often these things, it's the face is me, but people don't realize that without my Yuka and without the guys in the band, of course the other indie bands kind of helping out with this stuff. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that people don't actually see happening. So. It really is a community effort. There's a lot going on that people don't see. So anyway, I want to shout out to all those people.
Good stuff.
So let me share the flyer here.
I think this is the first band promotion that we've had as one of our programs, and
really?
I think that we need to do like more of that for sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Let's
okay.
Look. That way that any Rotarians in Japan, maybe my buddy Hajimu that I met in Kyoto, excellent guy, can kind of spread the word there as well.
Great.
But yeah.
Let me tell you a little bit about the bands. This is KIST. That's actually the acronym for the school, K International School.
Mm-hmm.
Wodewacket is from St. Mary's International School. Strawberry Jam is a mix of music teachers from several different international schools, which is really great. ISSH is International School of the Sacred Heart, which used to be called Tanuki, which is a raccoon, but they're changing their name. Cool Hand is the band headed by Nishimachi International School's headmaster, Terry Christian. Excellent band. All these bands are excellent. And the Complaints Department, that would be my own band. And you can see here it's What the Dickens, that's the pub. And, 6 o'clock start, September 26th. Going to be a lot of fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. And so that's an 18 o'clock p.m. That's what that says, right?
That's right. Yeah, maybe I'll change the font because it's kind of hard to see there.
I was like 10 p.m. Man, you guys stay up late.
Yeah. Well, we usually go to about 11 or midnight. So.
Well, if you do that and it's live streamed, there's every chance that we might be able to see it ourselves if I wake up early enough. So that could work.
It is live streamed. So. Okay, so I'll stop sharing this. How's that?
Cool.
So thank you very much for the plug.
Absolutely. So with everybody, make sure you do the I attended survey, you leave your comments, and we thank you again for joining us with the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and hope you'll join us again next week.
Thanks very much, Rushton. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you, Yvonne.
All right.